Hello, it's Lordy again. This time with a review of the LD AGI or AGI or AGI or however you want to pronounce it. This one I got from vaportrain.com for £35. Now I was going to do a review on this a couple of days ago, but I thought I'd hang fire because, in all honesty, I wanted to find something nice to say about it. So I'm going to start with a positive. I think this looks gorgeous. I think it's a very sexy little bit of kit. I like the minimalist look, as you could probably guess from my last mod review. So stylistically, I'm a big fan. I think that's where the things I like about it ends. Let's go into the table for a closer look. So this is what you get in the kit when you first get your device. You get a little goodie bag which has got some mesh, some wick, some canthal, a couple of O-rings, a couple of positive post insulators, and a couple of spare screws. You also get this, which is a dual purpose. The idea behind it is that you can use it as either a genesis or as a dripper. As a genesis, it is truly terrible, and I'm going to start stripping it down now to show you why. So the top just screws off altogether. You've got this center post which can be removed so that you get another 510 connector underneath to screw straight onto your mod or whatever you intend to be using it on. So the tank itself is made from Pyrex, which is nice, but one of the things that concerns me is it's so firmly pressed against the bottom that I'm really worried that if I push that back in, I'm going to end up damaging it. And in fact, I've just noticed that I've already developed a chip on this corner. The other thing is that the positive terminal, being a solid post, is just, looking it up, yeah, you can see it's a coil of no resistance wire. Now goodness knows how long that thing would be if you were to stretch it out, but given the width of it, logic would dictate, and it lets me know that you get a massive voltage drop. And when I say massive, I'm really not making any kind of understatement. So this is the top part and the bit that you use when you use it in dripping mode. And as a dripper, you'd think it's not too bad. I'm going to carry on talking about this as a genesis for the time being, and I'll come back to the dripping aspects after. There's a couple of small screws with tiny Allen key heads on that go into these holes for when you're using it as a dripper. But the one thing that I will say is, compared to an AGI T2, which I'll now... there we go. The holes on the AGI for putting your wick down are far bigger than the holes that you get on the AGI or AGI or whatever. So there's probably about half a mil's worth of difference, which doesn't sound like much, but you'd be surprised an additional half mil thickness of wick can make to the way that it pulls the juice through. The other thing that I'm going to say about it, I'm just going to unscrew this AGI, is that the lip that you get around helps a lot as a dripper, but when you're trying to wrap your negative end of the wire through, fingers and thumbs all over the place, stay. When you're trying to wrap your wire around the screw hole, the lip really gets in the way. It's quite cumbersome. The other thing is, rather than having a nice flat surface that you can squeeze some ribbon wire down, instead you just get this tiny Phillips screw. The other thing as well is that the overall height of that center post, there's quite a difference between that and the AGI. So if you use if you like to give 4 or 5 wraps, say with a double twisted wire, however you like to do it, you get a lot less room to play with on the AGI than you do on the AGI. So that's probably where I'm going to stop talking about this as a genesis. So what's wrong with it as a dripper? Well, with a dripper, there's not really a lot that you need to think about when you're manufacturing. I mean, they've put this lip on here so that if you do happen to drip a bit too much juice in, then it's not going to end up coming through the O-rings. But these fill holes here, where you put the screws in when you're using it in this mode, the juice does actually leak through, and I'm not alone in saying this. I know that a lot of people on forums have experienced this. Now, I've actually managed to get round it just by plugging up the holes with a bit of blue tack, and that stops the problem. But it's just a really poor show. So I'm going to show you how this thing vapes now, and you can see a little bit more about what I'm... Okay, so here it is on top of my mod. I haven't even bothered putting the glass back in. I was really quite worried after chipping it last time, and I didn't really fancy doing anything to my hands untoward. So just to demonstrate the voltage drop that I was talking about earlier, I'm just going to take a vape, set up as a dripper with that spring positive post in the way. Doesn't look too bad really, does it? Okay. Bear with me. So here we are now, just screwed straight onto the mod. That's a huge amount more vapour. So as a dripper, it's actually not too bad to use, apart from the leaks. So for £35 you get a terrible Genesis, you get a dripper that works but leaks, when you could get an AGI 2 again from vaportrain.com for £20, and you could get an iGo L for a tenner. So you're going to save a fiver if you buy the two separately. And I mean, the AGI works fantastically as a Genesis. I've not used the iGo personally, but it's a very similar setup and arrangement to the AGI. So if you want my honest advice, I'd forget about the AGI altogether and get yourself an iGo or an Octopus or just a standalone dripper that doesn't leak, and get yourself a Genesis that's not going to lose so much voltage. Sorry, I wish I could say something better, but I've got to be honest, and that is my honest opinion. So that's it. I hope you enjoyed this review, and I'll talk to you again very soon.